Super Smash Bros. Was one of my favorite games when I was a kid, and when I played it, the first thought that came to my mind was, "Oh my god, it's Kirby! I love Kirby!" My second thought was, "Oh my god, it's Pikachu! I love Pikachu!" My third thought was, Samus? Who the hell is Samus? Samus is, of course, the protagonist of the Metroid video game series, and since the Metroid series went into hibernation after the Super Nintendo, the first Metroid game that I ever got to play was Metroid Prime on the Nintendo GameCube. Metroid Prime was mind-blowingly good, and it made me an instant die-hard fan of Metroid. To this day, I hold all of the Metroid Prime games as regarded as some of the best games that I've ever played. I even like Metroid Prime Hunters on the Nintendo DS, which a lot of fans called Betrayal on because its single-player campaign wasn't as good as the console Metroid Prime games, and it had a multiplayer mode that many fans felt was trying to compete with Halo. Since I loved the Metroid Prime games so much, I decided to check out some other Metroid games, and after the Virtual Console was unveiled, I decided to download and play the original classic, Metroid on the NES. I mean, everybody talks about this game as being one of the greatest NES games to ever grace the planet, and Nintendo has ported Metroids like 4 times and even remade it, so I figured downloading and playing the NES classic would be really fun. Bad idea. Really bad idea. Metroid on the NES is one of the most confusing, poorly designed, bass-ackwards, moon logic games that I have ever played, and I despise this game with every fiber of my being! So, you play as Samus Aran, an intergalactic bounty hunter who's sent to the planet Zebes to destroy a legion of space pirates and to kill their leader, the Mother Brain. The game is a side-scrolling adventure game where you explore a massive world finding power-ups and shooting at enemies. Sounds pretty simple, but this game does pretty much everything wrong. The adventure elements suck, the shooting elements suck, and the exploration elements... we'll get to that. Right off the bat, when you first turn the game on, you get your first test of the soul. In most side-scrollers, you head to the right of the screen to advance, but if you do that in Metroid, you run into a dead end. You have to head to the left to get the Morph Ball power-up, and then you can head to the right to pass through the dead end. On one hand, that's kind of a clever puzzle to prey on gamers' reliance on gaming tradition. On the other hand, this is your first warning sign as to whether you can follow this game's moon logic or not. Fun fact, the designers of this game invented the Morph Ball because they didn't want to have to program crouching animations for Samus. One of Samus's most signature abilities came about because this game's developers were lazy. Actually, that's not even the tip of the iceberg on how lazy this game's developers were. After you pass through the tunnel with the Morph Ball at the start of the game, you come across a tall vertical shaft with some doors leading off of it. I want you to take a really good look at this screen right here. 4 platforms laid out 90 degrees away from each other. 3 of the platforms are 3 blocks wide, and the bottom platform is about 4 blocks wide. I'm going to demonstrate how terribly designed this game is by keeping count of how many times this one screen is copied and pasted into the game's map. Seriously, entire rooms are copied, pasted, and reused heavily throughout the game. Do you have any idea how annoying it is to play an exploration game, a game where the entire point of playing is to explore a vast new alien world, and you constantly run into rooms and areas that look identical to each other? That is not good game design! You have to draw your own map if you play this game. Because so many areas of the game look identical to one another, you will get lost if you don't keep your own map to keep track of where you are and where you've been. The game sure doesn't have a map for you. This game gives you no help in the navigation department. The thing that set Metroid apart from other NES games of its time was its huge environments. Metroid features a huge game world, at least huge for the NES's standards. Metroid is not divided into individual levels where you just march from left to right and you win. Players have to explore a huge non-linear environment, finding paths that they can take and finding power-ups that allow them to access other parts of the world. This game was a technological marvel for its time. Creating a huge non-linear world like this was revolutionary for the NES, and a game like this had never been seen on a home console before. The Metroid game engine paved the way for other adventure games on the NES and even gave rise to some of the console's best games like Blaster Master, so it's easy to see why this game has its place in history because some truly groundbreaking technology went into making it. It's just too bad that technology went into making a piece of shit. Fighting enemies sucks! Enemies in this game fall under one of 2 categories. Either they fly or they crawl. Flying enemies follow bat-crap insane flight patterns that make them very annoying to hit, and a lot of them are programmed to shift their flight plan when you move, which makes predicting their flight patterns a problem. Plus, all of the flying enemies move significantly faster than you do, and almost all of the enemies in the game take multiple hits to kill. Because it's so difficult trying to kill the flying enemies, you're often better off to just run your stupid ass away from the enemies instead of trying to fight them, which is not something that one should typically be forced to do in a shooter game. And before you correct me and say this game isn't a shooter game, the world is full of enemies, you're given a gun to kill them with, that makes Metroid a shooter game. An awful shooter game. The crawling enemies suck too because they're too short to shoot at since you can't crouch. You either have to kill the ground enemies with morph ball bombs, which is annoying because you have to enter and exit morph ball mode, or you have to wait until they climb onto a wall before you shoot them. Basically, fighting enemies is never as simple as just shooting them because all of the enemies have a string attached to them. Shooting at enemies is also complicated by the fact that Samus cannot shoot in any direction other than left, right, or straight up. The fearless intergalactic bounty-hunting badass can't aim at anything that isn't right in front of her face or directly above her head. Since about 3/4 of the enemies fly and the last quarter of enemies crawl and shooting either type of enemy is a pain in the ass, fighting the enemies in this game is tedious and annoying. It doesn't help that you have almost zero recovery time after getting hit. If you get swamped by enemies in a crowded hallway, they can kill you in seconds. And if you do get swamped by enemies, you won't be able to fight them off because the aiming sucks so bad, all of the enemies are too fast to reliably hit, and all of the enemies take multiple hits to kill. You're almost always far better off running away from enemies than actually shooting them. Does that sound like fun to you? Running away from all of the enemies like a wuss because they're too fast to reliably hit and because you can't aim worth crap? Well, guess what? It isn't fun. One of the things that bugs me about this game is that whenever you pick up an item, you don't get a text box explaining what item you collected or what the item does. You have to pull out the game's instruction manual to look up what item you just got and what your new item does. Are you freaking kidding me? The developers of this game were too lazy to throw a few text boxes in? As you explore the opening area, you find the long beam, an energy tank, which increases your maximum amount of health, and missiles. Missiles can kill most of the enemies in one hit, but because so many of the enemies follow bat crap insane flight patterns, landing a missile hit on a flying enemy requires a lucky jumping shot. Missiles are also required to get through red doors, of which there's an abundance in the first area of the game. Each missile power-up that you find increases your storage capacity by 5 missiles. Do you know how many missiles it takes to open a red door? 5 missiles! Do you think that's enough? Why force us to waste ammunition by firing 5 missiles to open one door? Because you need to save so many missiles to open doors, you can't use missiles to shoot at enemies through the first chunk of the game. After you find some missiles, you find bombs, which allow you to damage enemies while you're in morph ball mode. Having bombs also allows you to blast open a floor near the start of the game and access Kraid's lair. These platforms look familiar. Now, before I go any further, I need to stop and explain something to you. This is a map that I made of the starting area of the game. I have explored every single room in the overworld. The only place that I haven't gone is up this shaft. I need the ice beam to get up there. There's also an elevator in the overworld that leads to a big purple world. There's nothing in the purple world except for a path that leads to a dead end and 2 paths that are inaccessible without the ice beam. There's nothing else that I can do in either of these worlds without the ice beam, and since I've checked every single accessible room, I know that the ice beam is not in either of these worlds. The only logical thing to do is to go to Kraid's lair. There's nowhere else that I can go. When you first enter Kraid's lair, you find a shaft with 8 doors along it. One of the doors cannot be accessed without the high jump boots, and another door cannot be reached no matter what equipment you have. That leaves 6 doors in need of exploration. There's just one slight problem. The enemies in Kraid's lair are about 3 times as strong as the enemies that you fought until now, so you're going to get caught off guard when you come down here and die. When you die, you respawn with 30 units of health, and the enemies in this world are so strong that, starting with 30 units of health, they can kill you in 2 hits! 2 goddamn hits! If you want to go exploring down here, you have to go back to the overworld and kill enemies to get your health back up. If the game is in a really good mood, 1 in every 5 enemies that you kill will drop health. Unless you kill a strong enemy, picking up health only replenishes 5 units of health. If you don't feel like crunching the numbers, you have to kill around 170 enemies to get yourself back up to full health. And that's if you're lucky! So I spent 20 minutes grinding for health so that I can explore one of these tunnels. The tunnel that I selected led to a dead end, and I ran out of health trying to get back to the main area. So I had to backtrack again and spend another 20 minutes getting more health so that I could explore another tunnel just so that I could hit another dead end and die again! God damn it! 2 tunnels, 2 dead ends! What the hell? Screw this, I'm going to activate God mode. If you enter the words Narpass Sword into the game's password system, you get to play with infinite health and missiles. And speaking of the password system, why the hell does this game use a 24-digit password? Do you think that's long enough? So I explored Kraid's lair using the God mode cheat. I needed to find either the ice beam or the jump boots so that I could go further into the game. And you know what I found? Nothing! I found nothing! There are 6 doors that you can reach in Kraid's lair, Every single one of them leads to a dead end. Every single path in this world either leads to a dead end or circles around back to this shaft. There's nothing to find in any of these tunnels except for 2 missile expansions and an energy tank. These paths serve no purpose other than to waste your time. And because the enemies are so strong and you die so often, exploring these tunnels wastes a lot of time. Oh, and don't think I've forgotten the copy counter. This room right here, this room appears, no joke, in 8 different places in Kraid's Lair. Everywhere I turn, I run into this exact same room. This is an exploration game. Why the hell would you purposefully make every single tunnel look exactly the same? Do you have any idea how confusing that is? My first run through the game, I got lost down here all the damn time. There is zero excuse for shit like that. So I explored everywhere in Kraid's Lair. I had already explored everywhere in the overworld, and I had already explored everywhere in the purple area. I had explored the entire damn planet, and I still couldn't find any power-ups that I needed to finish the game. I played this game on and off for months. I went through every single tunnel, in every single area. I checked and rechecked every single individual screen in the game. I searched the entire planet over and over again for anything that I might have missed, and I didn't find jack shit. The entire game map is one giant dead end. So I did it. I did the one thing that I hate doing above all else when it comes to video games. I looked up an online walkthrough. I had no choice. I threw everything that I had at this game, and I still couldn't figure out where to go or what to do. So I finally gave up and went to GameFAQs so that I could find out what the hell I was missing. How was it possible that I had scoured the entire planet and I still couldn't figure out where to go? But first I have to go back and reload my old game with the password feature. I'll just enter in my horrendously long password and... What? What? Password? What? No! No! I wrote down the password. I copied it properly. What the hell? Oh, crap. I forgot to write down which digits in the password were zeros and which were capital O's. Look at how similar the 2 characters are. I didn't realize that there was a difference between them when I was writing down the password. I've lost my save! Now I have to start this goddamn game over again. Anyway, it turns out that the next item I'm supposed to find is the ice beam. To get the ice beam, you go to this room in the starting area, you use bombs to blow a hole in the floor right here, and you jump into this pit of lava. You pass right through the lava, and you enter a tunnel where you find the ice beam. How the fuck was I supposed to figure that out? Why would it even occur to me to try and bomb a hole in this bridge? There's nothing down there! Why would it even remotely occur to me to try dropping a bomb in this bridge and then there's nothing down there except lava that kills you almost instantly? Even if I'm rolling around dropping bombs just for the hell of it, even if I do by some 1,000,000 to 1 stroke of luck figure out that there's a hole there, why in God's name would I jump down there when there's nothing down there except for lava? That doesn't make any sense! In order to get an item that you need to have in order to beat the game, you have to do something that, under normal circumstances, results in you committing suicide. There is not any rational train of thought or stream of logic that would lead a person to try and jump into lava to look for items. There is no way for you to figure that out on your own. And if any of you Metroid fans out there tell me that you figured this out complete and you're on your own without any outside help, if you tell me that this makes perfect sense and I'm just stupid, then I invite you to kiss the darkest part of my ass. But wait, it gets better! If you go 2 rooms to the left, you find a room that looks identical to the room in which you find the ice beam. Yay. And if you bomb a hole in the floor and jump into the lava here, you fall down a shaft that's almost impossible to jump your way back out of, forcing you to kill yourself or reset the game! You know, I could almost forgive the fact that this game recycles rooms like people recycle water bottles. Maybe they were still working out the kinks in their new game engine. But the fact that they put a room down here that serves no purpose but to force you to reset the game, these developers weren't just incompetent, they went out of their way to screw everybody who put this game into their Nintendo. Here's another little kick in the nuts for you. The ice beam sucks in combat. It takes twice as much gunfire as normal to kill enemies if you're using the ice beam because every other shot will freeze enemies but not actually hurt them. I think you're actually supposed to use the ice beam to freeze enemies so that it's easier to run away from them. Running away like a wuss. More than just a good idea, it's the law. None of the other items in the game are hidden in plain sight. To get every single other key power-up in the game, you have to find more bullcrap secret passages that you have absolutely no way of finding on your own. Basically what the game is telling me is that to find the rest of the mandatory power-ups, I have to shoot every single block in every single room until I find the one block that leads to a secret passage that contains the item that I need. No joke, I played the entire second half of this game reading straight from the walkthrough because there is no way that you can find all of the secret passages that you need without a walkthrough or a map that shows you the passages. Little tip for game designers, if I'm forced to play the majority of your game with a walkthrough or a map from Nintendo Power, you have failed as game designers! A game should not be so damn cryptic that a player needs to read straight from a walkthrough or seek other outside help to get through the game! The other items that you find are the Various Suit, the High Jump Boots, the Wave Beam, and the Screw Attack. My favorite item in the game is the Screw Attack because it makes you automatically kill enemies if you touch them while you're jumping, which makes killing basic enemies completely trivial. This game's combat is a steaming pile of pig crap, that's all there is to it. Killing enemies is either a massive pain in the ass, or if you have the Screw Attack it requires absolutely no effort. Once you've found all of the items, you go off to fight the bosses. The first boss is Kraid, who's pretty easy if you have the Wave Beam. The second boss is Ridley, who you can kill without ever having to move if you stand in the little clove over here. Look at this. I'm just standing here. Ridley is powerless before me, and I'm just standing in one place. I can kill this boss without ever having to move. So after you kill the first two bosses, you can head to the final level of the game, where you get jumped by Metroids and automatically die. The only way to kill the Metroids is to go back and get the Ice Beam again. I'd complain about how that doesn't make any sense, but I don't care anymore. I just want this misery to end. So after you run through some more halls, you finally fight the final boss, the Mother Brain. Holy crap! A boss fight that requires actual effort to defeat! I can't believe it! Look at this! I'm actually moving in order to dodge projectiles! I'm actually in danger of dying! What a revelation! It's almost like boss fights are supposed to be challenging or something! It's almost like you shouldn't be able to defeat a boss by standing still! So after you kill the Mother Brain, you jump up a huge shaft that also reuses the same arrangement of platforms several times, and I'd update the copy counter, but I stopped giving a crap a long time ago. My copy counter is way too low, we'll just leave it at that. Then you get a "You Are Winner" screen, and if you beat the game fast enough, Samus takes her clothes off. Okay, 1. If I want to see Samus in a bikini, I'll look it up on DeviantArt. 2. I will replay all 3 Metroid Prime games 1,000 times over before I ever replay this piece of crap just to see the good ending. So to recap, Metroid is an adventure game where most of your equipment is hidden behind secret passageways you have no way of finding, a shooter game that actively discourages you from shooting at enemies, and an exploration game where everything looks the same and most of the doors lead to dead ends. This game does absolutely everything wrong. There is nothing fun about this game, and I have no idea how you're supposed to beat this game without using a walkthrough. The only reason why this game is a classic is because of the technology that went into making it. On a fundamental design level, Metroid is an absolute mess. I could bitch for another 20 minutes about how poorly designed this game is. Metroid is one of the worst games that I have ever played, and I am so glad that I'm done with this review, because now I never have to think about this piece of shit ever again.